Yo YouTube! This is a video for Wednesday the 6th of March 2024. And the reason why I did the year on is because on the 6th of March last year it was my very first CX job. My very first job as a same day courier. So what I shall do is give you a summary of the day, and then I shall give you some reflections about my first year doing this job. So knowing me, it will stretch the video out to at least 45 minutes. So yesterday I didn't have a job in the morning. I was bidding in the morning from home, and about 9 o'clock-ish I won a job, so it wasn't too hard, and it was a nice little job going from Grantham to Nottingham. Short wheelbase job. Loaded miles was 37 miles, and I bid £50, £50. And the job was taking a couple of pallets from one depot of a warehouse to the same company but in Nottingham. So it's nice and easy. The dead miles to get to the pickup was 32 miles, but it got me into a decent area in Nottingham Way for work, moving on for the rest of the day. The guy that gave me the job explained to me that he didn't need a pod. He just wanted me to get the guy to sign the phone at the end of it, because it was more of an internal transfer than anything else. So it wasn't. Usually he has the paperwork sent to him, but on this occasion it didn't need to be done. And also a bonus, he said he'd pay me the same day, which was really good. So I left home at 9 o'clock. I arrived at the pickup point about 9:50. At first I couldn't work out which of the 5 shutters to go to. I ended up going to the doors of all of them. There was no bell, and I started at number 5 and ended up number 1, and it was number 1 that I was meant to get to. So I got loaded up pretty easily at that point, and then moved on to Nottingham. It's only about just about an hour away on the A52. So when I arrived and got offloaded, the forklift driver was really chipper, and we had a bit of a chat. I do want to, at this point, just reinforce something as a little tip for people who are newer to this job. It works well for me, and I just think it's a tiny little thing that you can do to make your day easier, to oil the cogs, as it were, of this job. And that is, I always ask the first name of the people I'm dealing with. So be it a forklift driver or an office worker, or that's probably all I deal with, really, those two people. And then I always thank them by name at the end of when they help me. So yesterday I had Steve load me up and Steve unload me. It's amazing how many forklift drivers are called Steve. So I was then finished at 11:15. I drove outside the gate, parked up right outside in a little bay, an empty bay on the main road, and on the on the public road. Sorry, it wasn't the main road; it was an industrial estate. And I looked for jobs, and I was doing my usual tactic of pricing. I'd go anywhere, I'd bid on anything, but pricing at a certain point. And it just really wasn't working. So come 12:40, I started reducing my prices, and I got a job. I bid on a job for £50, going from Nottingham to Coventry. Although the first job was to Nottingham, it was actually more like north side of Nottingham and outside. It was in the countryside outside Nottingham. And I had to travel 26 miles to get to the pickup, and it was about half an hour or so to pick up. And it's for a company I've worked for before. The loaded miles 42 for a small van, and they asked if I would do it for 45 pounds. And by this point, I was prepared to do it for that because I'd worked for them before and I needed a job. So £45 is what I did it for, and made my way towards the pickup in Nottingham. And it's a job I've done before. It's a nice little job. It's taking aggregate samples to be sampled. So samples from an aggregates place to a sampling place. So it's really easy to do. The pickup and drop off are really easy. I arrived at the pickup place at just gone 1:30, and I was at the drop off point at 2:45 ish. I dropped off the samples. The guy that let me in was quite young. I had to chat with him about his job, and it was quite interesting. I found it quite interesting, sort of finding out about other people's jobs. He's been doing his job for a couple of years, and what he does is he judges the quality of the aggregate samples. They could be soot, soil, or stone, or gravel. So it's looking at sort of properties and the sizes of the particles that make up that aggregate. So the company that are using it or selling it have a consistency of their product, and they can sort of test its properties with different needs. And interestingly, I'll pass this on to you guys. If you're thinking about unusual careers, as it were, then although it was a minimum wage job, it was, he said, interesting, and it is classified as a lab job. So one of his colleagues went on from that job to the NHS working in a lab, and because you have to have lab experience, she could use working at that aggregates place as her lab experience, and she got a job working in sort of more scientifically minded lab. So you don't need any qualifications to do that job. Just go there and sort of learn on the job what you need to do. So if you wanted to get into sort of scientific based stuff and don't have a degree or science qualification, you can find other ways into it by getting experience in other kinds of labs. I just found it really interesting that that job existed. So one of the things that's really good about this job is you get to see so many interesting things. And we had a little bit of a chat. Unfortunately, I could stay there for ages, but I spent 15 minutes chatting with him, and I realised I was using up my own time, and I better get on the road and try and find another job. So I said my farewells to him, and then made my way out of the yard and parked up in the industrial estate, looked for another job. And it was about 3 o'clock by the time I got out of the yard. And I started bidding on other work, and I decided I was going to have to go a bit lower with pricing. So I put another bid on at £45 on a small van job, going from about 20 minutes away, it was 11 dead miles. I can't quite remember where it was from. It was quite close to where I was in Coventry, and it was going to Derby. And that was taking up a few small boxes, and it was a small van job, 58 loaded miles. I bid £45 and I won that. I had to wait for about 15 minutes while they were labelling up the boxes, which I was fine to do. I wasn't getting any more work that day, but there's no point in sort of me trying to rush them. I was just sort of polite and friendly and just sort of patience really. Just didn't want to put pressure on him because that's not my job. So he did as quickly as he could, and then he gave me the boxes, and I went off on my way. And I arrived at the drop-off point at about 20 past 4. And then I looked for some more jobs, but I missed anything decent. So that was the end of my day. 3 CX jobs, all pretty much small van work. The first one was a short wheelbase. It was 2 pallets, but the second 2 were both definitely small van work. Now, at one point, this was before I got my second job, there was a job that I kind of got a call about, which I want to talk about, because it's reflective about an aspect of this job that you have to get used to. So, let me tell you what it happened from my point of view, from my perspective. So, it was a job from Mansfield going to Carlisle. So this is when I was dropped off my first job just outside Nottingham. I was about 25 minutes away from the pickup, and it was a small van job going 175 miles. So I bid £150, 150, and I thought that was a fair price. I worked it out afterwards at 86 pence per loaded mile, and by the time I'd got from where I was to Mansfield, it would have been about 85p per mile that I would have earned on the job. I got a call reasonably quickly from a national shipper, and she said to me that they only had £130 on the job, and would I do it for 130? And I said that I wouldn't do it for 130 because Carlisle was quite a hard place to get work from. She then said, would you meet me halfway, 140? And this is the point at which my day would have gone one of 2 ways. Whatever I decide at this point, it's a decision that I make that then affects what happens. And I made a decision one way, and I'll explain why. But I could equally do a decision the other way, and it would have been justifiable either way. So when she said 140, I just decided, no, I'm not going to go to 140. I've put in a fair price. I'm going to stick with that. So I said, no, sorry, because of where I'm picking up from, where I'm going to, I think that's a fair price. I'm going to stick with what I've offered. And so she said, okay, I'll call you back if we need you, or some worse that effect. I'll get back to you. And I knew what that meant. When I first started doing this job, I thought, oh, that could be a job. I'll wait on for a bit. But now I know what that really means. I'll get back to you in a bit means, nah. We'll either repost it, get someone else to do it, or not bother doing the job. It doesn't mean we might come back to you at the price you wanted. Particularly not this particular shipper. So, I discarded that, and my rationale was, I worked it out afterwards, £130 was equivalent to 75p per loaded mile, which I think is too cheap. 140 would be 80 pence per loaded mile, which I still think is too cheap, mainly because it's ending up in Carlisle. And there's nothing wrong with Carlisle as a place. I don't mean to put Carlisle down. I mean, and you can get work from the Carlisle area. I have done that before, but it is quite hard. By the time I got there late afternoon, if not just before 5. I may not have had a chance to get a job out of there. So that would have been my last job of the day. And just in principle, as much as anything else, I put a fair price on. Why should I reduce it? So, and this is what I want to talk about. This bit, that in a bit more detail. I tend to run my business based on what I think is fair, and I'll try to avoid what's unfair. And it's not necessarily the way that you should all run your businesses, because we're all different. I know that's how I see it. I will exchange my labour and my efforts and my time for a fair reward. And I don't think I want to do it if I'm feeling it's unfair. And I think £140 for 175 miles is unfair. Now, as I said before, it is grey. I could have taken that job and it might have ended up being alright. I might have got another job at the end. But I just didn't feel it was right. And on another day, I might have decided I'll take that job. And it's these grey area decisions that can really affect your business on a long-term basis. In one particular day, it wouldn't make much difference. It's neither here nor there. You know, I might have made more money today or less money today. But over the course of a period of time, you've got to sort of learn from these decisions. And what I'm trying to say is, I have a principle that I apply to my work. That's the fairness principle. Here's what I'm doing fair, and I'm probably like to do it. Because I'm reasonably stubborn, I find it really hard to go down below what I think is a fair price, which means I often miss out on work. And maybe there's an element of having to be I should be more flexible. So if I'd taken that job yesterday, I would have got £190 for the day, and it would have been in Carlisle. So as it was, I'll tell you what I did get for the day. So that would have been before expenses. So after my 3 CX jobs, my total mileage for the day was 268 miles, 268. I worked for 11 hours and I had £140, 140. Because my average fuel price at the moment is still 15.48 pence per mile, I spent £41 and 49 pence on fuel. That meant that I did earn, after fuel expenses, £99 yesterday. And if I'd gone to the Carlisle, I would have spent a bit more on fuel. Probably would have ended up in the region of about £130 maybe after fuel. But then I would have had to have tramped out or find another job. So it might have been better, it might not. It's a bit up in the air. Right. That's the end of that day, and that day, as I said, was my 1 year anniversary doing work off CX. So I want to spend a bit of time reflecting on my last year, sort of summarising the main things in chronological order that happened. So I remember really clearly my first few days and weeks of doing this job, because it was really exciting, it was really interesting. My first job was on the 6th of March. It was from King's Lynn to Ipswich, and I did it with my partner. We did 2 jobs that day. The first week, I would say, was about me learning how to use CX, like sort of more fluently, and how to create a pod, do a pod, take a photo, what sort of strapping down loads, all the basics. I learned most of the basics in that first week, because it's a really simple job to do. I learnt something every day after that first week, so over time I learnt more and more things, and I had more and more experiences. I would say probably after about a month or so, I felt that I kind of really knew the job enough to sort of start getting used to it. I'm feeling comfortable with the job. And I would say probably 3 months in, I kind of had learnt the bulk of the things I had to learn. I'd been to most of the places that were different, like hospitals. I'd been to distribution centres. I'd done some tramping. I'd been to Scotland. I'd done RAF bases. All the sort of little aspects of the job that you don't do every day, I'd kind of done most of them within about 3 months, and had those experiences. March, April, May. So May, go back to the second month in. The start of May was when I started thinking about doing a YouTube channel. And it was about the middle of May when I actually started doing videos. And I don't remember why I started. I just remember there was a spark and I thought, oh, let's try this. Remember, it was about let's just try it at the start and see where it takes me. It was being reasonably adventurous for me. And I think looking back on it subconsciously, I think I could say that my subconscious wanted me to thank the YouTube people that I'd looked at for months before that. And I didn't want to, I'm not the sort of person that would sort of contact them directly. I would never dream about doing that. But I wanted to sort of somehow thank them. So I think subconsciously that's what led me to YouTube, doing my own channel. Because then in one of my first videos, it was about me just thanking the people that got me to where I was, showing that appreciation. And I think in hindsight, I wasn't actively aware of it, but that's probably what got me started. YouTube was I just did it to see where it took me, and that became something in itself, really. Became an experience in itself that's added to the experience of being on the road. I think that at first, as I said, it was about just didn't know what it was. Then it's about sort of documenting what I'd learnt each day and sort of sharing that with people. And then that became a bit more about sharing a bit more about how I saw the world and my approach, my perceptions. And obviously that brought into it the way that I think about things. And obviously I found it important that I tried to share that with the way my brain works. And it settled down after a while, after I had some really useful advice, which was basically led me to the idea that this is my channel, I should do it my way, not try and replicate anyone else's channel, not try and for me I wasn't trying to achieve any targets. I didn't have any targets about viewership or generating any sort of anything back out of it. I don't want anything out of YouTube other than a platform to have comments that I can sort of engage with, and that's quite useful. But there's nothing else I need from YouTube. Doing the videos is what I get from it. It's producing the videos and talking about things. And eventually I came to the conclusion that what YouTube is for me, and it's for the following reason, which I have already said this in videos, but you may not have seen them all. YouTube is my way of being heard, having a voice in the world. But I don't want to be seen, I don't want to be known. So it's a great platform in which I can express myself and get some sort of communication going without having to be on camera, visible to people, because that's not something that makes me feel comfortable. And the other aspect of YouTube, which I've become much more comfortable with having done it, is it's just me and my authentic personality. There's a variety of other reasons why I thought I was going to do it, and it has got other benefits which I won't go into, but the bottom line is there's lots of people that can do YouTube. There are lots of YouTube formats and lots of different types of personalities to do it and reasons for doing it. But I think the only one that works for me is just to be myself, authentic myself. That means being open and honest and presenting how I see the world through my eyes by verbalising it through a YouTube video. And that's simple as that, but it's really cathartic. It's really I don't know, it's hard to explain. If you don't do a YouTube video and you think that you might want to do it, then the answer is do it, absolutely do it, and get your voice heard, get yourself out there. I personally would do it just for the sake of doing it. If you want to do it to earn money, I think you have to do it in a very particular way, be a lot more focused and a lot more responsive to what people want to see or hear. But that's not why I want to do it. Actually, yeah, at this point, I've got to, I was going to say to you, in terms of YouTube, so I'm slightly off track, but I'll forget if I don't say it now. So, I was thinking about what I would say at the end of a year. No, sorry, that's coming at the end of the year. That's in May, right. I've thought something I was saying in May, which I'm going to say in May, not now. So forget all that. It's my brain getting ahead of itself. So, back to career work. So, 3 months in, I said I was pretty much done most areas at least once. I would say 6 months in, about October-ish, was the first time that I was getting invoices coming in which I had a choice about. They weren't just to pay future bills, they weren't just about surviving. I had some money I could withdraw and sort of, I could do something with that money, save it or spend it. Before that, the first 6 months is just trying to get your cash flow sorted out, trying to make sure you got all the equipment, and you got all the bills lined up for the future, and you got some sort of contingency. So it took me 6 months to get to that point where I felt it was stable financially. So that got me. So that comes back to the reason why I started in March. A lot of the reason why I started in March was because I missed I wanted to deliberately miss the quietest time of the year, so January, February, and I wanted to have some time to get experienced enough in the job so that by the time I got busy, I was able to utilise that skill set and make the money. So I felt that I'd give myself 3 to 6 months to get used to the job, and then by the end of the year, when I thought I'd be busy, I could then utilise, earn lots of money. It didn't turn out quite like that, because I actually got a regular shipper give me work for about 3 months, which was about 3 months in. So for about maybe 3 to 5 months, I got from about May to November, May, June, July, so 6 months. I was getting regular work from a shipper at a good rate, which made a big difference to my bottom line. About November-ish, it kind of dried up. So it's all been purely on the CX since that point. So, come November, December, I didn't really see a massive increase in work and money compared to what I had before. It was a bit disappointing in terms of the amount of work available for the whole year, really. It was enough to live off. I made a decent money, but because I was able to work long hours and able to tramp out. But it was quite toughish at times. But anyway, I still enjoyed it. Come January, which is what I was kind of unsure about, so I was really unsure about how it's going to go. Things sort of changed for me personally. I had a lot going on health-wise and sort of personal-wise, sort of a house sale. And so in January, from about 21st of December, which was my last day working before Christmas, until mid-January, I didn't do any work at all. And then I did one job on the 16th of January out, and one job back on 17th of January back home, and that was it for January. January was a washout for me for a variety of reasons, but also it wasn't busy on the CX as well. That brought me to February. I tentatively went back to work kind of full steam in February after my house sale fell through. And it was okay. It was better than I thought it was going to be. I got work. I managed to sort of make decent money some weeks. In other weeks it was difficult. And by the end of February, I kind of made what I thought was a reasonable amount of gross income. But it wasn't any great shakes. But it did show that there is money. There is work to be made. There is money to be made in January and February. You just have to be a bit more flexible with pricing and maybe a bit more flexible about where you end up. And that brings us to March. So the first week of March, I basically struggled, grinding out work and ending up basically just covering my business expenses. So this week I haven't really made any money for myself. It's all been about covering my business expenses. And that brings me full circle to the year. So that was the year sort of summary as to how the year went. It's not a typical year for everyone, because not everyone would have no work in January. Not everyone can tramp out. Not everyone can do X, Y, and Z. So it's just my year. I haven't done any stats for the year yet. I'll probably do that at the weekend. But this just gives you the opportunity, if you do want to know any particular stats for 1 year on the CX, then just let me know and I will work out what that stat is for me. I was reflecting upon sort of it being a bit of a bitty year for a variety of reasons. I went on holiday in October for a week to Scotland, because I'd been to Scotland and I liked the countryside. So that was an offshoot of being a courier. I don't remember having any holidays away. I did have time off work to sort of basically over Christmas and January I had a lot of time off work. I might have had the odd week off before that just to kind of decompress. I think I had a week off in May maybe as well. But my experience won't be typical of everyone. But then saying that, everyone at some point is going to have a bereavement to deal with, or maybe might have some health appointments or issues, or they might have some monetary problems or personal problems, or have to move house. Everyone at some point has to deal with these things that life throws at you. So although my year will be atypical for a lot of people, it will actually be typical for the average person, because the average person at some point will have an interruption in their year. So maybe the stats will have some relevance despite having a bit of time off. Right, I want to now talk about my reflections on the career driving as a job over the year. I would say, without any hesitation, I love this job. It's a job that really suits me, and one of the indicators about that is on a Monday morning I'm looking forward to working, and there's no other job I've ever on a Monday morning woken up and thought, I woke up and thought I can't wait to get to work. I think to be in a job where you're looking forward to doing it is so lucky. And it's taken me a long time to find a job that suits me so well. And I'm not going to let it go. This will be the job I do until I retire now. I just hope that can be, and to the right age, because I don't want to have to stop working because of health reasons earlier than I would otherwise need to. But, so yeah, the job's really good. The freedom and the independence and just how interesting it is. For someone like me, it's just an amazing way to earn a living. And that's why when it comes to the hourly rate that I get, which I haven't worked out for the year but I could do, I don't even care about the hourly rates. I genuinely don't care how much per hour I earn. I don't base this job's success or failure on whether I'm matching the national minimum wage or not, because for me it's how much I earn at the end of the week. That's important, and whether I enjoy the job or not, and that's important. And we can all choose the metrics we choose to judge a job by, but those are my metrics. So I won't go on about how good the job is, but basically we tend to focus a lot on the money side of this job, but we shouldn't forget it's just a really great job to do, even without the money side. It could become, for me, a lifestyle job, in that I could just do it for a bit of pocket money. If I didn't need to work, I'd do this as a bit of in my dotage, get a little van, do a few little jobs, 1 or 2 jobs a day, just get myself out of the house, meet people if that's what I want to do, and it's nice and easy, earn a bit of money, like pocket money type thing. I was retired, so it could be done like that, or it could be done like proper PAYE and everything in between. So next thing is my van. Reflections on my van. I've got a long wheelbase Ford Transit. I bought it in 2021 in March, 3 years ago. 3 years ago now. It's currently on 266,000 miles, and I probably bought it around about 80,000 miles. So I put on a lot of miles, and I have to be realistic. It's probably not going to last an awful lot longer, but what I'm hoping for is another year and a half out of this van. So I haven't worked out exactly my annual mileage, but it's going to be in the region of 75,000 miles a year. So that'll take it up to 330,000, 340,000, which I think is good going for a Ford Transit. So I'm hoping it will last for that sort of period of time. And then I've got to think about what will my next van be. Well, I like Transits. I've got no reason to look at anything else. I will look around at some other things, but I am biased that I'll probably look at a Ford Transit next time. The only difference that I'm thinking about is I might go for one that's, if they do them, a bit longer than I've got. And it depends on whether I've got parking space. At the moment I don't have parking space for a longer van, but by the time I come to change the van we will have moved home. So I probably don't want a 4-metre van. I think that would be too long for me. But this is 3.4 metres in the loading bay. I think maybe 3.6 metres, 3.8 metres in the loading bay might be fine. I tend to do. I've never really had a problem with doing long wheelbase work on the CX. The only problem is a 4-metre long item, which I can't bid on. And they're quite rare. It'd be things like carpets and piping that's that long. And I can't take those sort of things. But I've only once had to fail. I've only once not been given a job because of the size of the van, and I think that was a mistake on their behalf. I could have done it, but there was a big national company who definitely wanted 4-metre vans. And then on other times I've just put stuff at an angle inside, like pipes that a bit longer. I've been able to close the door. Always been able to close the doors. So it hasn't let me down having this size van, but it'd be a bit more comfortable to have a bit longer space. This van can take 3 standard size pallets, which I think is all I want to be able to take. I think that's fine, three pallets. The other thing I might consider is an option of heavier weight. This van can take 1,100 kilograms at a push. I probably would like something that could take a bit more than that. So I wouldn't go. I'm not going for anything bigger or smaller. It has to be a van that's designed to take more weight. So they do exist, but I'm not sure how much I'm willing to pay for that. As regards to other sizes, in the future I might, after my next van, go smaller. Just go small van. There's a lot of small van work on the CX. But right now I like the idea of having palletised loads and boxes, just single boxes. Gives me a lot of flexibility, a lot of interest. I would not go to Luton. I don't really see the point of Luton's. I mean, I can see the point to some extent, but for me there's no interest at all. They are bigger vehicles to drive. They are less efficient on fuel. They're boxier and they're bigger. They don't take more weight than mine does. They basically take more volume and more height than I can do. But I'm not going to go down that route. In all the time that I've done this, in the year I've done this, There was only one occasion when having a tail lift would have been useful, but as it was, I just had to wait patiently while they got me offloaded. It was probably about an hour's wait that I could have avoided. I could have got off myself, but it's not worth me having a tail lift or a pump truck for my work. So I'm happy with the size van. Next one I get will be same sort of size, maybe a bit bigger, and that'll be in about a year and a half's time. I've just got to find some way of being able to afford it, because at the moment that is a problem. So I think that's everything I want to talk about my year in summary. Just as a reminder, if you've got anything you want me to staticize, as a word, for the year, I'll work out any sort of stats you want me to. Oh yeah, one last thing I suppose about YouTube channel and the courier driving. The reason why I focused and do focus on the money side is because that's what I wanted to know before I started doing the channel, and I stand by that. I sometimes get criticisms for the content of my video because of the way I work out stats or whatever, and you can't please everyone all the time, but I do it the way I do it because that's important to me, and I put in an extra couple of stats that I don't care about just because people ask for them, but I know what I use, but the point here is I'm not saying that what I do is the only way of doing it. It's by no means, it's not the only way. I work out the fuel in a certain way, I work out what my net earnings are in a certain way. But there are loads of ways in which you can work out these figures. Some are more accurate, some are less accurate, some are more easy to use on the go, some are, in my view, misleading, some are accurate. The proof is whether the mechanism that you use to work out your stats means you have a business that survives, because you can do the work. The work is one part of the business, being able to do the work well and find the work, but the other part of running a business, which is not talked about much, is understanding the business side of it, the cash flow, the the planning ahead, accounting for issues, accounting for contingencies, accounting for the quiet times of the day, quiet times of the week, quiet times of the month, quiet times of the year, and the busy times. So they're all the financial side. There's a number of ways you can do that. Providing your business survives and is liquid, then that's all that matters. Whether you do it the same as someone else or not is irrelevant. I'll give you one example before I leave. I don't excessively worry about dead miles, and I'm not saying that is right or that is wrong. I want the flexibility to travel to get the work, because I live in an area where I have to travel to get work anyway, and I'm happy to tramp out and go anywhere. But for some people, that isn't their way of working. So for some people, they're much more focused on efficiency and maybe lowering particular costs, and therefore dead miles to them is more important than it is to me. I'm not saying that they are wrong, I'm not saying that I am right, but neither am I saying the opposite. I'm not saying that there is, I think it is possible to be too focused on dead miles and not on the other things that involve the job. So there are different ways of working out your stats, different ways of thinking about it. As long as you stay liquid and can live off the business and carry on year, it doesn't really matter which bits you focus on. But you do need a robust business model and way of working, and for me this is the way I'm doing it. And last point, I'm perfectly aware that I haven't yet proved I have a robust business model. Give me 5 years to prove that, 10 years to prove that, whatever you decide is the right way. And maybe if these videos still exist and you can actually Actually, I'm gonna shout. I'm shouting you out now. Right. If you're that person that in 3 or 4 years' time has gone back and listened to every single video, you are amazing. There are people that don't even keep up with my videos now live. So if you've gone back and you listen to these, and I have got a robust business model that's working 5 years online, and you've come back to this video, then let me know. I'll send you something as a reward, as a prize, because I'd be very, very impressed if you've listened to this one all the way back and listened to all of them. Right, I'm waffling now, so stop there. I haven't even talked about the new thing I worked out about my brain. I'll tell you about that in my next video. I worked out something new about myself. I thought, I'll share that because it's quite interesting. But no, anyway, I'll tell that later, another time. Right, obviously this is going to be called 1 year on the CX, this video. I might call it Reflections on 1 year on CX. But I feel happy that I've had that year's experience. Oh, and I do feel that 1 more year of doing this, so now I've how to do the job, I've been through 1 year, I want 1 more year going through every single month, and then I'll feel like I'm a bit more experienced with this job. At the moment it still feels like a bit of a newbie, but I think 2 years of doing this job full time, I think at that point I'll feel like I've earned my stripes, stirrups, whatever the phrase is. Thank you for listening to my video. Farewell, friends.